Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. And boy, this one's a doozy. Calmac are responsible for all the ferries in Scotland, more or less a monopoly. They go from the mainland to the islands and then island to island and so forth. And so they are basically the ones that control this whole island route thing. It's not entirely 100% them, but it's more or less. They are the majority. And we're going to be talking about them, but we're not even talking, and this is the thing, we're not even going to be talking about the Glen Sannox and the Glen Rosa. So, we've done enough videos on them. This is an entirely different thing. £500 million up the Swanee, 8 years late, still hasn't had its shakedown voyage. Then it'll have to go back in, get the shakedown repairs done and so forth. It could be 9 years before this thing actually picks up its first passenger. And then won't be that long before it needs replacing. This is how bad it is. But anyway, not them. Just generally Calmac and its routes. Now, the Westminster government have done a big survey. And it's come up with some interesting numbers. Now, this is the Competitions and Market Authority, the CMA. And it's investigated, surveyed, and analysed the number, basically crunched the numbers on Calmac, its routes, and the costs involved. And it's concluded that having Calmac retain control of the majority of these routes as it does now may not be the best use of public money, basically. This is what this business watchdog has warned. Fiona Hyslop, when she's lifted her face away from eating that Gregg sausage roll, has announced earlier this year that it was her intention to allow the government-operated ferry line, basically it's a quango, isn't it, to continue serving basically into the foreseeable future, everyone on the West Coast and that. And yet, this may not be the thing. So she commissioned this report into the viability of the deal while delaying the final decision. And fair enough. I'm actually say that's probably the best thing to do, just to sort out what she called a number of sort of very complex issues. However, a number of other ferry groups want in on the game. They want the routes to be what they call unbundled. So instead of getting, you have this, and this is a bundle, and you have to have all of them. This is the only one that's profitable, but you've got to supply the other two if you want this one, bundling them. What they say is unbundle them all and let them all pitch for it and make it free market availability. Calmac can't compete on that because while they can make money on the big popular routes, they can't make money on the little routes. But they know that the other smaller companies possibly could, but it would reduce their power. And so they'll go, no, keep them bundled because they want to maintain that monopoly. So it's a very, very complex issue going on. Whereas if you had, let's just say if you had it out and wide, others would come in and you could get a better deal, basically. That's what they're saying. And Calmac would then also be, rather than just saying this is the price, they would have to be lean on the price because they know that if they went too high, someone else could undercut them and they'd lose that route. But they quite like making money. So they go, no, keep them bundled so that they can make more money out of the public purse. And this is the problem they have. Now, this is raising questions about whether it is even ethical to allow a monopoly that they've got. And is it a value for money for the public? And the answer is quite simply, no. Pure value for money is you put each and every route up separately and auction it off to the lowest bidder. That's one of those. Lowest bidder gets it. That's how you do it. So the report that was done by the CMA, this Westminster group, has urged Transport Scotland, has headed by Fiona Hyslop, to basically explain why she's investing or she's vested in keeping them bundled rather than unbundled. What's her reasoning? And why is she against open competition for routes? Why not allow other routes, other suppliers to be involved. And indeed, you can have more than one supplier on a route, and that way you have lifeline, what they call lifeline routes. So let's say, for example, one particular route would be, Calmac get 3 sailings a day and another gets 1 sailing a day on that route. But somewhere else it could be half and half, or another one, Calmac get 1 and the other group get 3, something like that, and spread them around. Great thing then is, because you've always got more than one boat on that route, if one of the boats breaks down, the other one is there to pick up the slack. See, clever. Anyway, they've said in their official report, and I'll read this. In our view, given the size of the subsidy, the assessment should better demonstrate that Transport Scotland considered a range of alternatives and explain with appropriate evidence, and that's the big bit, why it concluded that they were not suitable to achieve the policy objective. This should include consideration of the potential for different models of delivery across some or all routes. Now, what they're actually saying to Hyslop is, look, you want to keep this as basically a monopoly. Please tell us why, and please give us proof as to why this would be better rather than having an open competition, shared routes, and doubling up with more than one operator on every route, acting as a buffer. And Fiona Hyslop is now at a loss for words. She does not know how to respond to this because, of course, what they're saying is entirely sensible, but it goes against what she wants, which is total control. Because if you have only Calmac running it and she sits as the minister on top of that, then basically the ferry service becomes a branch of government. Whereas if it's out there and it's purely professional, contracted out third party, she can only guide, she can't control. And it ceases to be controlled by government, and it means losing power. And we know that they hate the idea of not having the power. And that's what they're playing for. And this is why she wants this. Calmac has argued that having this wide-ranging network, which is actually the biggest in the UK and one of the biggest in Europe, it says it enables ferries to be swapped. Yes, but if you've got 2 ferries on the same route, you don't have to worry about swapping them. The other one picks up the slack. Ta-da! The CMA asked whether Calmac's ferry leasing and maintenance costs and the cost of buying new vessels by Seamal were the minimum necessary. The report annoyed the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union, who called on the Scottish Government to ignore the advice. They'll do so at their peril, because this is one of those where it can be overridden by Westminster. He who pays the ferryman calls the tune. Mix me metaphors, but you know what I mean. Thanks a lot. Bye.